Welcome to Speaking Candidly with Candace, where we talk in depth with everyday people about their fears, their challenges, and their triumphs. I'm your host, Candace Schoner, and I hope over the next half hour you'll be engaged, inspired to live your best life. Today has been a very difficult start, as we had expected a guest to appear, but due to the coronavirus, they have decided to self-isolate. I do not blame them in any way, but I have found someone that I think will be totally inspirational, and I want to welcome Tanya Brockett to this podcast. Tanya is the president and founding editor of Halogen Inc., where she has for the past 15 years been helping authors, experts, and entrepreneurs to publish successful books. She has also published 3 books of her own. And Tanya, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Candace. It's a pleasure to be here.
One of the reasons why I thought of you at the last minute, I've thought of you before the last minute, to be honest, but is because while we are self-isolating due to the virus, I thought it's a good opportunity for people to do something positive, take advantage of reading some of the great books that are out there. And for those who might have been thinking about writing their own book, it's a good time to start that. Do you agree?
Absolutely. It's a wonderful time to spend time reflecting, but also using that as an opportunity to tap into that desire you've had for a long time to write that book and just haven't had the time. Now you can make the time.
And I understand that you are, being the generous person that you are, offering a free course right now on creating an outline for that book. Is that correct?
Yes. Writing an outline for your book is absolutely the best way to make it flow out of you with ease. And my free e-course at tanyaloves.me/free e-course is absolutely a great way to get that done. It guides you step by step through the outlining process.
Now, you've worked with a variety of authors on different topics. Can you share some of the books that you've worked on and how the process works to get a book published?
Yes. One of my better-known clients is Dr. Joe Vitale, and Joe has about 55 or more books out there in the world making a positive impact on people's lives. And what I had the pleasure of being able to do with him and lots of other authors, hundreds of authors, is to help them to make sure that their book is bestseller worthy, making sure that it is written well, making sure it's designed well, making sure it's laid out well, making sure that it is ready to sell to the masses.
What makes I'm sorry to interrupt. This is our first time, as you know, I have talked to you about the first time that we're doing a phone interview, so bear with me, everybody. But Tanya, I wanted to know what makes a successful book in your mind?
A well-written book. That is the most successful book you can write. When you write the best book you can, have it professionally edited, have it professionally designed prior to publication, you will have a much greater chance of being successful. On the other hand, if you just write some crap book that you copied from blog posts and didn't edit but threw together so that you could get it out on Amazon, that's not going to reflect well on you. So a well-written book is the most successful book.
And in your opinion, the people that you work with, are they just trying to get out to promote themselves, or are they have a specific topic that they want to share? Who comes to you for help, basically, is what I'm trying to get at.
You know, I am fortunate in that I tend to attract authors who have a positive message to share that's going to have a positive impact on their reader. So typically their messages are quality messages in the first place. So that allows me then to just help them to spread their word in a much greater way. Now, it also can enhance their credibility. It can boost their brand, and it can also help them to leave a legacy. But ideally, it's because they have a positive message to share with the world.
Have you had any experience with authors or I should say novices who want to write a memoir?
I have. And obviously, if you're writing a memoir, you want somebody to gain something from it. You know, usually you're not just telling the story to boost your own ego. You're telling a story that's going to have an impact on someone else and something that they can learn from your story. And stories are such a great way to get a message across. So yes, writing a memoir is absolutely a great way to express your story in a way that can impact others.
It sounds like a lot of your books that you're either writing or editing are more educational or business related. Is that correct?
A good portion of them are. Many of them are self-help. Some of them are how-to. Many others are more inspirational in terms of being Christian works or stories about love and life. I also have a lot of mind, body, spirit authors who are trying to just improve the whole energy of the world, if you will, so that everyone can live a better life.
Well, talking about mind, body, and spirit, I know a lot of us are coping with the coronavirus, and there's a lot of fear, depression that is resulting by not staying connected. What are your feelings about what people should do during this time?
To be prepared, but then be positive. Find a way to, after you've prepared everything according to what the CDC suggests, primary source, then go do something fun. Go do something that brings joy into your life, whether that's just walking in nature or spending time at home with your family playing games, as I did with my family all day yesterday. But don't allow the fear of the situation to weigh on your mind any more than necessary. Get your information and get out.
I 100% agree with that, and I think people need to do what makes them feel better. I want to go back to your experience and what got you to the publishing world. How did you start out and get into publishing and helping authors?
Wow, it was so long ago, Candace, and now I have to think back. I've always had a wonderful relationship with words. So even in all of my business and corporate roles, I had something to do with words, whether it was editing the audit manuals for my professional services firm or writing the company newsletters and annual reports. I've always had a relationship with words. Well, I shifted that relationship when I was working with small businesses on a greater scale. And I was helping so many people individually with their own written projects that someone who was a publishing consultant finally told me, why don't you do this like as a business? I mean, you do it so well. You help so many people. Why not get paid for what you're doing? It had never occurred to me until that time.
And that's one of the things that I'm inspired by you, and our history goes back at least 10 years, that you're very good at what you do, but you're also very flexible. And I want to ask you about that ability to transform from one business to another. Can you talk about that?
Yes. Well, what's so great, Candace, is I spent a good part of my early years as a small business consultant. So I was helping people to create business entities and to live their passion through creating revenue. And the thought of staying in one particular field forever just wasn't a part of my being. So being flexible, entrepreneurship requires that. So I helped thousands of businesses to get into business, to grow their business, to finance their businesses, and then to harvest them, to get out. So that made it a little bit easier for me to make those kinds of moves myself.
Okay, let's talk about the finances of book publishing. A lot of people think, I'll write a book, I'll publish it. I don't know that they're realistic about what it's going to cost them to publish. Can you speak about that?
Yes. There is a misconception that because you can post a document on Amazon at no cost, essentially, you can just publish for free and then you're going to make $1 million because there are billions of people on Amazon and that's all it's going to take and you're set for life. The reality is that's not so. The reality is something that I help people to deal with in my business coaching. Well, authorpreneurship is what I call it. So I help authors to understand the business side of writing books and publishing books. So I have developed a budget for authors to use. It's a spreadsheet tool that I offer in my work with them so that they can see what it's really going to take. But there are marketing costs associated with selling a book because that is the biggest thing you've got to do after writing a book is market that puppy. And then there are other expenses through editing costs, design costs, cover design, and other items that have to be addressed. So it's not just a free ride to write a book just because Amazon will publish it for free.
And what about people who don't have any experience writing but think that they have a great story to tell? What is your advice for them in terms of considering writing and publishing a book?
I would talk to someone with experience. One of the things that I get to do is work with first-time authors a lot. I love it because there's so much that I can share for them that reduces their learning curve tremendously. And I have coaching packages available at halogeninc.com where they can tap in to that expertise so that they don't have to spin their wheels and try to figure it all out. There is so much information on the internet, you can get confused very easily. If you talk to an expert, a professional, then it really helps you to get really clear so that you can chart your path a lot quicker and a lot easier.
What do you think is the number one challenge for the first-time author?
Fear. In my business, in my book publishing courses that I have taught, authors that came in, I asked them all to express their greatest obstacle to getting their book published. And the overwhelming majority said fear. Fear of success, fear of failure, fear that nobody will read it, fear that they can't write it well enough, fear that it's never going to work out for them. So much fear around that. And one of the things that I do in my coaching is help to dissipate and mitigate that fear.
Well, fear is definitely an obstacle that I think we face every day. Most people do. And as a writer myself and former marketing person, I agree that people need to try to overcome that and sort of move forward. If you don't try something, you'll never know if you can succeed. And I would like you to share some of your success stories with us.
The first person that comes to mind is a wonderful author who had hundreds of strips of paper with little stories and vignettes all over the house, in her pockets and all over the place. And she wondered if it were possible for her to turn that into a book. And she came to me with this project, and oh my goodness, it was just incredible. So she was a first-time author, and we were able to take all those hundreds of strips of paper and little snippets that were all over the place and condense them into a book that just exploded with love and light and joy and guidance and advice that just touched the world. So that's one of my most joyous stories of having an author come in fearful that it can't work and finding that it does.
I love that story because it's very visual. I can see some of the little notes or note cards and pieces of paper scattered across the living room floor.
Yeah.
Do you feel like people need to have a computer to write their stories?
No. And as a matter of fact, there are great authors like the late Dr. Wayne Dyer, who would have a legal pad to write his book and then have them typed up. You don't have to have a computer. You can get a book written in so many ways, and I had the joy of helping a lot of people to do it in a variety of ways.
For someone to get started writing their book, I know we're going to talk about your free course and an outline. Do you think that that is the place to start? Does everybody need an outline? Or I know that there are some writers that are free-flowing, like myself. We just sort of, once we sit down to the blank page, pages and pages and pages get written down. So what is your feeling about the process and about outlines?
Well, you know, I have to go back to that free e-course, because what it does is starts before the outline, and it starts at the idea stage of your book. What is that message that you want to share? What is it that you want your reader to get from or be able to do as a result of reading your book? How do you want them to feel? And then we can start thinking about, okay, so how do we make them feel that way? And we literally document through a process that you'll find in my Outline Your Book free e-course, and helps you to decide what is it that you're actually going to be sharing. Because it's one thing to have a diary or a blog, right, where you can just let your thoughts out and they just flow and flow and flow. But if you wanted to talk to a reader about, I don't know, feeling healthy, and you happen to be thinking that day about, you know, business finances, then everything that you write that day is not going to be relevant to that health reader, right? So having an outline helps you to structure what you're going to say to those people, even though you can freely write that. So I want to bust the myth that having a book outline means that you can't be creative and free-flowing, because what it actually allows you to do is do that more freely. I believe that it allows the book to pour out of you, because now you know where your book is going, and you know who your ideal reader is and what it is that they want from you.
Now, at the top of the program, I mentioned that you yourself have published 3 books. Can you share their titles and your purpose for those books?
Yes, my very first book was totally unintentional. It was called The Loan Solution. And at the time, I was a small business consultant, and I was helping hundreds and hundreds of people to gain access to debt capital. And I was finding that there were so many misconceptions about getting a loan and getting financing, and I wanted everybody to come in at the same level and be on the same page so that they were really ready to pursue that financing. So that's why I wrote The Loan Solution, so that they could be ready when they came to me. And as a result of all my work that year, and including that book, I was nominated by the U.S. Small Business Administration as a financial services advocate of the year that year. So that was my first book. And it was supposed to be a chapter of a greater book at one point. My second book was based on an experience that I had with learning about what they now call the law of attraction. And it is called The iPad, the Manifestation, and the Law of Attraction. It's a little ebook that you can still find on Amazon that walks through a 7-step process that has now become a course that I have called Do Behave. Do Behave as if success is inevitable. And that's at dobehave.net. But that book went through literally my learning process. and shared that process with the reader. The third book that I was in was actually a chapter that I wrote on procrastination for a book called No More Procrastination, published by Leslie Cardinal. And in that, I just talked about the fact that procrastination is a decision to act. And once you make that decision, the universe conspires to help you to bring it to pass. So there's no reason to fear it, in other words. So those are the things that I have written on my own where my name is actually involved. But I've also ghostwritten books that will not have my name.
So when someone comes to you who has a book idea and wants you to ghostwrite it, what makes you take that book on, and what is that process like for you and for the person with the idea?
Well, ghostwriting a book is a significant event, to be honest, because you are sharing your baby, your ideas, your thoughts, your wishes, your dreams for your reader, and asking someone else to formulate that for you and put it into words. So that right there is a big relationship. And I don't take it lightly, and nor does anyone entering into that. But it's also a way to ensure that your message is going to get out there in the way you see best, even if you're not the one to do that. And what's so beautiful is you can have fabulous ideas, tons of content, and you can tell me about it in a wonderful way, but you just don't have either the capacity or the capability, the time, the resources to sit down on a computer and get it all out. So what I do is just talk you through the process, make it really, really easy, extract that story from you with questions and conversation, and then I translate that using your voice in a recorded conversation and turning that into words on a written page. So you can literally look at your book after I've written it and say, oh my gosh, I said that? That's so awesome. It sounds great. I can't tell where you start, where I begin, and so forth and so on. And so it's really a wonderful collaborative process. That does take quite a bit of time, Candace, I will say. It's not something that's going to happen over a weekend. It is a several-month process for ghostwriting a book.
Now, someone who has already written a book or has not published it yet, but would like a second opinion or feels like it might need some editing, what do you need when they come to you for you to decide whether you're the person that would be the best person for them to get the book edited and published?
One of the easiest ways, low cost, low investment, is a free sample edit. At HallertonInc.com/services, where my service page, you'll find a form that you can submit a sample edit where you put a snippet of your manuscript, 5-10 pages, and you submit it to me so that I can take a look at it and look at the current status of it, what level of edit I believe will be required for that manuscript to be publishable and ready, and what level of investment in our time and your money that it will take to have that book edited and so that it is ready for your reader. Simple way to do it, free sample edit. Now, what that also allows me to do is determine whether or not that book is something we want to take into our shop. I'm picky about my clients, as my clients have the right to be picky about me. So I want to make sure that any book that we are going to be spending hours and hours reading is going to be something that we feel good about, something that we would want to allow our name to be in, and something that the reader would enjoy. So free sample edit is the quickest way.
Sorry again to interrupt. Can I ask, how many people or how many proposals do you get or requests for your services, say, in a given month?
It totally depends on the month, you know. You can, you know, there could be, it's never going to be hundreds in our case, because we don't market ourselves as online editors or anything like that. We are typically a word of mouth editorial company. So we're not looking, to be honest, we're not looking for hundreds and hundreds. We only want the best that are going to come to us so that we can serve them the best.
Well, and then I was going to ask you how you managed to be able to invest your time and expertise in several projects a year, because you talk about the editing process, it is very time consuming. So how do you manage that?
A variety of ways. One is having a team of editors who can support the projects that come in. When it comes to ghostwriting, that is a very personal thing. So I only take on a certain level, typically about 4 ghostwriting projects in a year's time, because they take so much time and work and effort. I will have 3 books coming out this year from my clients who have had their books ghostwritten recently. But so the editing, I can bring in others and oversee the editing process. Most of my clients want my hands on their book, and I get that. And so I make sure that my hands are on their book, but I also allow other editors to add their feedback as well.
Now, I'm pretty sure in the past you've participated in the Festival of the Book in Charlottesville, which has been canceled because of the COVID-19, which is very disappointing, I think, to Charlottesville residents. But do you think that that was the right call?
I do. I do believe it was the right call. It's a tough call to make. And what's, even especially disheartening for me this year is my brother-in-law was coming to read his book to several of the schools in our county. He has Ollie the Ogre, that is his latest book that was coming out that he was going to promote at the festival. And I was going to be supporting him there for that. But when you think about this virus and the impact that it has had worldwide, and the thought that the book festival, which is so successful, brings in at least 25,000 people per year into our community, I think it's reasonable to assume that maybe now is not the best time for that to happen.
I agree.
So
well,
I applaud them for that decision.
I do, and I know it was very tough on a lot of people, and it's a great festival. I love attending it every year.
Yeah.
So my final thought is, because we're running out of time, is what would you tell your younger self at 25 based on what you know now about life?
Woo, that is a loaded question. My first thought is to allow your light to shine and to run your own race regardless of the races of others.
That is a great quote to end on. Well, thank you, Tanya, for being my guest today and especially filling in last minute. This is Speaking Candidly with Candace, and remember, every cloud has a silver lining.